Day 1169 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 960,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,270 in the past day. Then as for hardware, 14 tanks, 3 APVs, and 71 artillery. Then headed straight to the map because Russia's skies lit up again overnight, with drone alerts that rang out from Krasnodar in the south to Moscow in the north, and even into Russia's deep interior at the little herd from Mordovia region to the east. Now wide open to Ukraine's long arm. It seemed like the country was just exploding with atmosphere. Danger zones were flagged across multiple regions including Oriol, Ryazan, Lipetsk, Tambov, Tula, Voronezh, Belgorod, and many others. Take Tula for instance, with fires located in the area of two of the largest enterprises of the Russian defense industry after a drone attack, as per local resident reports, with both enterprises being part of the state corporation Rostec. And then at Kaluga, with NASA firm's satellite data confirming targets at the Shaikovka airbase were heating up. Meanwhile, in Saransk, Ukrainian drones crossed over 750 kilometers of Russian airspace to torch the Kremlin's only major fiber optic cable factory, critical to its drone war machine. The plant in flames, and with it a major artery for Russian drone production now severed. But then most notably and most significantly in Moscow, where drones penetrated deep within 5 or 10 kilometers of central Moscow, reaching major thoroughfares in its south including Ramenskoye and Domodedovo. Air defenses in the city were seen activated, with some interceptions being caught on camera. Interestingly, out of the 100-plus drones flung Russia's way overnight, barely over a dozen were sent Moscow's way. So surely there's easier targets right now to choose from, given Moscow's airspace is more heavily defended now than at any other time in the SMO. All of which suggests strongly that these drones had no major intention of striking military sites in the region, but to instead perform reconnaissance on the area, testing defenses once again, and also as part of sending the message to the Kremlin that Ukraine has no problem reaching the capital, especially just 2 days before their own very much anticipated annual Victory Day parade celebrations that will unfold on Friday. Oh, and also for Moscow, NASA firm's satellite data again clocked fire signatures, this time at the Kubinka airbase, home to the MiG-29s and Su-27s, with the data suggesting a not-so-subtle hint something seriously hit the tarmac. Now, out of all of these events, apart from Russia being inconvenienced with the lack of sleep in the earlier hours of this morning, which is precisely a courtesy Russia has extended back towards Ukraine all too often now, where in follow-up to the Moscow mobile data ban from just yesterday, the country, and not just the capital now, is now grappling with significant disruptions as internal Russian media reports that mobile internet has been shut down in over 30 cities as part of more paranoid extended measures to counter drones. Many parts of the west of the country are experiencing ATM and payment issues, with those ATMs having been switched off and stores now only accepting cash. Kind of difficult when the ATM cash machines are down. Also, delivery companies from many regions have suspended services heavily reliant on mobile data. And then also, for the first time, all cafes and shops along key routes in Moscow's central administrative district are closed without exception from 10 p.m. last night until May 9th at 2 p.m. To add to that security measure, Moscow's civilian housing workers have been shoved into rooftop drone watch duty, armed with nothing but binoculars and vague instructions. Janitors, now overnight and day sky patrol, say that they've been told to call the main emergency line, but lack instructions on proper timing, location, direction, all of that to actually perform the task. The heights of paranoia shown in a system where a country cannot fully protect its own airspace after first firing onto another country. And so, with so many security concerns and implementations for Moscow and beyond right now, what will actually happen on the day? Well, a few outcomes exist. For instance, Ukraine could rain down UAV fire into the Red Square parade on Friday, embarrassing Putin, who has a lot of guests in attendance this year, and sparing no expense with up to 100 vehicles, including maybe a dozen or more tanks. Another option for Ukraine is to, through forcing Russia to consolidate vast amounts of aerial defenses into the capital, take that welcoming opportunity to strike at high-value Russian assets from far away Moscow itself. Alternatively, Ukraine could choose the quiet, inactive route, performing no operations of note on the day, followed by showing how Russia recommences firing back into Ukraine in large swaths of missiles and drones immediately following the May 9th parade, and thereby allowing Ukraine to put on full display how an appeasement strategy towards Russia is an exercise in futility that simply is not shown to work against an aggressor nation. Either way, Ukrainian intelligence surely has some sort of motion in play to make the most out of all of these existing dynamics at play, where really anything goes. Now to Kursk on the map, potentially big news, with Ukrainian forces reportedly entering into Tyotkino from the eastern flank, with clashes reportedly ongoing. According to Russian social media channels, Ukrainian forces control a small part of southwestern Tyotkino, continuing drone, air, and artillery strikes aimed at isolating Russian units in the rear. Russian sources claim they lost a few streets to the AFU at Tyotkino, which can often mean they've lost a lot more. Active fighting has also been reported near Novi Put and Volfino. Meanwhile, the AFU is, of course, keeping quiet on the matter so far. Then into the Ukrainian map, where renewed Russian attacks showed northeast of the Velika Novosilka axis in the south, particularly in the direction of Shevchenko, not to be confused with the settlement just south of Pokrovsk, and Zelenya Pole. Russian forces look to secure main roads to the north that lead to Zaporizhia, eventually, and they're also looking to achieve the same directly east near Novopil, adjacent to the Ukrainian liberated land as indicated in green on the map, a location that was liberated many seasons ago. Then on the map, in the eastern direction, no let up from Ukraine's 413th Battalion USV, which is part of the Unmanned Systems Forces, as their FPV drones rip through Russian armor and air defense, taking out a Mr. S SPG, a Tunguska, which is a less often seen unit combining 30mm autocannons and a surface-to-air missile system, plus a Buk M3 air defense system. Another clean sweep by the USF unit that's fast becoming Russia's reoccurring nightmare. Also noting of this event was the reported usage of a German HF-2 kamikaze drone, which is about time, with the German military aid pledge of 4,000 of these 50-kilometer range bad boys late last year, with delivery starting to come through just last month in April. Then also in the east, the 4th SOF Regiment, so the Special Operations Forces, destroyed a rare Russian Uragan 1M multiple launch rocket system. It's a modernized version of the BM-27, thus very expensive, with not too many in Russian stock. Then somewhere in the south, said to be the Zaporizhia direction, and in the name of modern drone warfare, Ukraine's Signum unit slipped a flyby into the back of an enemy driving truck. There's no recon drone footage to let us know the outcome, but we did see some incredible flight operator artistry on display here, landing the quadcopter inside the vehicle. Then headed up the map, Estonia, where footage shows Russia has installed FPV screen protections across the bank of the Narva River, where you can see, on the other side, opposite to Estonia, preparations for a smaller Victory Day parade celebration in the town of Ivangorod, potentially. Although multiple reports have since suggested a lot of these smaller Western-facing Russian Victory Day celebrations have been cancelled, citing security concerns. Meanwhile, just a few days ago, Kremlin spokesperson Peskov said that Russia has no territorial claims against the Baltic countries and that Russia does not intend to attack anyone. Unfortunately, for any Baltic country, including Estonia here, a statement like that would have been better left unsaid, given Russia's history of making claims to the complete contrary to only act against their own Kremlin talking points. And so as for the understandably distrustful Estonia, for example, recently receiving its first batch of American HIMARS, high mobility artillery rocket systems, it's no wonder. Then headed across to some news for today. Ukraine successfully brought back 205 of its defenders from Russian captivity. This exchange, as part of a 205 to 205 POW swap facilitated by the United Arab Emirates, involved 202 enlisted personnel and 3 officers from various branches of Ukraine's military and National Guard. This marks the 5th prisoner swap between Ukraine and Russia in 2025, totaling 64 exchanges since the onset of the full-scale invasion. And it's always good to see the big smiles on these free Ukrainian faces. And this time, no footage to show from the Russian MOD on the receiving back of 205 of their own. But if it does exist somewhere, it's probably just like all the rest. Usually a bunch of unhappy frown faces on a Russian POW bus, with the probable expectation that they'll go to jail or worse, be sent on the next bus back to the SMO. All for surrendering to the enemy. It doesn't go down too well with Russia's updated criminal code these days. Then to some more news, as Russia has released the guest list for the main event in Moscow this Friday, with military personnel from 13 countries that are expected to march through the Red Square, with 30-odd world leaders or representatives expected to attend the event, at least as per Russian state-controlled media reported. And if true, this marks a notable increase to recent years as Putin tries to project military strength globally. North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, a very paranoid leader, is reported to be sending representatives instead of getting out of his chair to attend the event, which is not an encouraging sign after all of these so-called ironclad security agreements signed between North Korea and Russia recently. Now, on the other hand, this notification of Kim's non-attendance could be part of a smokescreen maneuver for security reasons to get the paranoid leader safely attending on the day. There was even some rumors about Putin himself attending the show via remote link, which I have to say is extremely unlikely. Almost an impossibility. No, it is an impossibility, and I wish I was wrong on that, given the big show he's putting on this year. So to not be there would kind of not exactly project military strength outwardly without him in physical attendance. Oh, I wish that was the case though. Meanwhile, Latvia joined Lithuania and Poland in blocking airspace to Serbia's Vučić and Slovakia's Fico, grounding their path to Moscow's May 9 parade. Still, you can bet they'll claw their way to kneel at the feet of their Tsar to pay respects and collect the money bags. Then to a quick Russian hardware update. As Russian soldiers are installing empty plastic wash basins on top of their trucks and other various Blyatmobiles as a form of projecting deception against Ukrainian drones. As the Russian theory goes, the upside-down plastic basins give off the impression of a large and formidable electronic jammer, hoping that the FPV drone operator from Ukraine won't want to get too close. Good luck with that. Maybe this has been the reason all along why so many of their EW systems haven't been functioning as intended. Then headed across to something sad to end off the day. Ramzan Kadyrov, the long-standing leader of Chechnya, has formally requested Russian President Vladimir Putin's approval to resign from his Chechen post. In a statement to Russian state-controlled media, Kadyrov expressed his desire to be dismissed, reportedly due to illness, but emphasizing that the final decision rests with Putin, as it always does. Kadyrov, who has ruled Chechnya since 2007 following the assassination of his father, has previously made attempts at stepping down, including in 2016 and 2022. However, he has consistently remained in power, often retracting such statements shortly after making them, probably after having one of those friendly chats with Putin over a nice cup of tea by the window. Now, notably for this story, Kadyrov recently appointed his 17-year-old son, Adam, to oversee internal security in Chechnya, leading to speculation about a possible dynastic succession. As I'm sure any 17-year-old has the breadth of experience to lead a Russian republic. As of now, the Kremlin has not publicly responded to Kadyrov's resignation request, but it remains to be seen, well, not really, whether this request will lead to an actual transition of power, because that would involve Putin working on a tireless hunt for somebody, anybody he can trust to be his main man in the south. It's one of the most difficult tasks that a paranoid person can partake in. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment. Thanks for all of the subscribing for the new people and all the old ones for sticking around. Thanks again for the support, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.